So 30 days ago, almost 30 days ago, we hired a 20-year-old virtual assistant to run what we call the ugly roof strategy. And the ugly roof strategy is real simple. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's hopping online, finding ugly roofs within something like Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever, and then dialing those phone numbers from Google to set the appointments. We hired a 20-year-old with no experience because we wanted to prove that basically you didn't need any fancy softwares, you didn't need any crazy technology or AI or insanely expensive agencies to be able to book commercial roofing inspections. And so with a 20-year-old that had no experience, we have booked so many inspections over the last 3.5, 4 weeks that I actually had to ask her to slow down a little bit. And so today we're in Speedway, Indiana, and we're headed over to a local race shop to take a look at their roof. They said they have a bunch of leaks going on, so I'll walk you guys through the entire process. But more importantly, I think it's already shown true from the previous videos we've done, what I just shared with you a minute ago, like the strategy works. So I think more importantly, it's like, yeah, we'll show you what we're doing today, but let's talk about how do we scale this across an entire sales team. Just met with the owner of Vance Hines, and we were doing our discovery, getting all the info, figuring out like all the details of the roofing companies that had actually been out here. But honestly, it's just hard it's hard to even concentrate and not, focus on what's going on around us. It's like, dude, I grew up racing motorcycles, so like this is like a dream come true to walk this building. Look, and it's clear that there's no issues getting on roofs, right? But the thing is, we don't want this to be an anomaly. We don't want it to be where like this is an added bonus that like every couple weeks we get on, some new roof. We want it to be like a daily occurrence or, multiple times per week occurrence. And so the reality is like, how do we actually make this scalable? And so what I'm gonna talk through with you guys today is essentially like, I've done this before. I've built a sales team of 26 people, and I made some crucial mistakes along the way, some things that I wouldn't have done and that I wouldn't do again. And so I'm gonna walk you through our entire framework for like, how do we build the system? And then how do we manage the people to run the system? So in 2021, I went through an acquisition where we were a part of a 19-company roll-up from companies all over the country. And as part of my earn-out, it was to keep working with those guys for a little bit of time. So I went down to Austin, Texas. I joined an office that was needing kind of a revamp and a refresher and just a fresh perspective on how they were operating. And so that's exactly what I tried to do. So a couple months in, the office sent me the initiatives for the year. We were basically just getting set up for 2022. And they said, hey, your sales goal is $22 million or $21 million, somewhere in that vicinity. And to me, initially I was just like, cool, quick math is like, all right, if we had 30 reps and everyone averaged, $750,000 a year, that basically puts us where we need to be. And so along that journey, it was, there were trials and tribulations, but more tribulations than trials, I'd say. And I've got three big things that from that time in my life that felt really painful while I was going through it that I'm actually really grateful for now. So number one is like, when I think back to 2022, I was literally bulldozing my way through the days and the weeks and the years, and it actually feels like quite a blur. And so what I realized is like, you can't extend the days, like we can't add more hours to the day, but the reality is and the lesson that I really took away is that like the more valuable I was to that sales team in trying to spread myself thin, the less valuable the business became because everything was reliant on me as that key man. Lesson number two is honestly kind of a funny one. So I felt extremely out of my element, right? I went from doing $5-6 million a year to doing, $20 million a year from one location and $100 million a year, across the country. And so in doing that, I was in like a massive intake of information. So I was reading books, I was watching the podcast, and I read the E-Myth, right? Which I think most people in business have probably they've either read it or it's been recommended to them. And so when I read the E-Myth, I was like, holy shit, I've got to start documenting every single thing that I do. And I literally created an entire SOP library trying to document everything I did from the time I woke up through, the end of the day, the end of the week, whatever. And so what I realized in that is like, when you document everything, it is everything and it's overwhelming for everyone else. So like the move isn't to document everything. And I'll explain what I mean later. And lastly, the biggest lesson I took away was that good people don't fix broken systems. And so the fact of the matter is that we had such an awesome lead up, a way to recruit and interview and bring reps into our program, but we didn't have the systems to sustain 30 some odd people and to be able to manage them efficiently. So we realized that, like I said, good people don't fix broken systems, but rather broken systems end up breaking good people. And really, if I had to lump all three of those, major lessons into one thing, it's like that chaos just doesn't allow you to scale. And so over the past 3 years, not only have I worked with 90 some odd sales teams, but I've also invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? We've paid the consultants, paid the coaches, and put the time and effort in to actually learn how do we scale a sales team. And we've put it together in what we call the 5-piece puzzle. I'll go ahead and explain that to you right now. And look, the last few weeks, we've been running all over the state of Indiana, just proving that this stuff works. And so I'm gonna take a couple minutes here to just slow everything down. I'm gonna talk to you, the actual leader, the sales leader, the owner, somebody that's managing and in control, trying to put other people's dreams and stuff those and fit those inside of your vision for this massive company or this big dream that you have of building this roofing company. And I'm gonna let you know exactly what you need to do. Now, there's a lot of people that will jump off this video over the next couple minutes because it is the monotonous, boring work that is actually required to build something great. So if that's what you're after, if you're trying to be above the line of mediocrity, then you're gonna wanna pay attention to this. So the first two things I think of when I'm trying to scale a sales team of any sort is really that we're looking for really two main things. And it's that we are wanting to build high culture, but on the other hand, we also want high performance. And so the way that we balance those things out is really that we have to systematize the business or systematize the sales team, and then we also have to optimize that system, okay? And so what that looks like is systemize or systematize or optimize. It's like those are really vague terms, right? They're amorphous in the way that like people throw them around, they say them, and they don't really even know what they mean. So in our world, when we talk about systematizing, we're saying, okay, we want to show what we do, we want to show how we do it, and then we want to show who's responsible for doing the what and the how. What I just told you, there's the processes, right? That's what we do. There's the playbooks, which is how we do it, and over here we have the people who do those things. When I'm talking about processes, I literally mean like what is the step-by-step, what are the stages that we move through in order to generate the leads, to work through the sales process, to go through the estimating process all the way through closing the deal. When I talk about the playbooks and how we do it, it's not what I was talking about earlier up on the roof when I was saying like where the E-Myth said you need to document everything, because you don't. The reality is like you need to look at those processes, those stages, all of those steps in showing what you do, and you need to say, what are the most crucial? What are the ones that are most susceptible to human error, and what are the ones that we can't afford to actually fuck up? And once you identify those steps or those stages that you can't afford to have the hiccups on, then that's how we identify the playbooks. Those are the things that we actually need to document ourselves doing or record ourselves doing, while we're actually doing it in the process, so it doesn't add up to, or it doesn't stack up on us like this big task of something that we have to, stop the business for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks and build these playbooks. It's like, no, dude, we're just gonna record ourselves while we're doing it the next time we're doing it. And just like when we're gonna go in to identify what playbooks need to actually be built, we're gonna do the same thing for our people. So just like for the playbooks, we went back to the processes to look through and identify like the most crucial stages that need to be documented. We're gonna do the same thing for our people, only we're gonna go through step by step by step, and we're just gonna label what position in the company owns those stages. So that's the system. It's what we do, how we do it, and then who does the what and the how. The next piece is the optimization. Again, it's not some like flamboyant, fluffy word that I'm just throwing out to the masses. Optimization means that we're tracking the performance. So we're actually having a scorecard for all of these processes. And we're also having a pulse where we're checking in on the performance of this thing. So let me explain what the pulse actually looks like. The pulse is how we operate with our team on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis. What are we doing on a weekly basis, all the way down to a granular level of like, what are we doing every single day with the team? So we'll start at a high level. On a quarterly basis, we're just setting sales initiatives, we're setting sales targets so that we understand, and more importantly, that the team understands exactly where we're going, like what direction do we need to row in and how fast. And then on a monthly basis, all we're doing is a strategic monthly business review. It's basically like, hey, how did the last 30 days go? And what do we need to adjust, course correct, pivot to in order to stay on track to hit that higher quarterly goal? The weekly meetings, the weekly sales meetings, it's like, I know most people hate meetings, but the reason that most people hate meetings, or the reason that I hated meetings for the longest time, is because I felt like I didn't take anything away from them. It felt like a waste of time. It felt like we were kind of like all over the place. But the reality is like on a weekly basis, you should be having these vector points that just make sure that you're, if you were flying from the East Coast to the West Coast, that pilot's not gonna fly, he's not just gonna put in that, hey, we're going to LAX from New York City and hope that he gets there. No, he's gonna check his vector points along the way, and that's really how we treat these weekly meetings. So in our weekly meetings, we are checking the metrics based on the projections that we had from the week prior. We are, as a team, looking to see, are we on track or are we off track for where we should be this month? And then finally, we're giving everyone some space to talk about, the issues or the opportunities or just things that we need to discuss in general. Where most people fall off is that they forget that, their team is composed of actual humans that have real psychological needs and emotional needs as, people working for you or working underneath you. And so every other week, you should be running what we call a bi-weekly one-on-one. It's just a check-in. First off, like, how are you doing as a human? Second off, how are you doing as your, with your goals here as, an employee, as a member of the sales team? But then third, it's like, what do you need and how can I support you? The biggest linchpin in all of sales team management is like not having enough touches, like not being with your team every single day, not putting them in the trenches, not rolling up your sleeves and not getting into it and actually training. So I talk about it like this. So there's not a sports team, there's not a professional athlete, there's not anyone in the business or in the world that competes that doesn't practice every single day. And your sales team, like, there literally shouldn't be an exception to this. So on Monday, you're running your weekly team meeting, but Tuesday through Friday, you should be training with the team. It's gotta be like working through the sales process, working through objections, learning the parts and pieces and identifying deficiencies. And if you're not doing that and your team isn't performing, well, I think that's probably a good place to start. And so if you remember just a couple minutes ago, I told you that the formula, the goal is actually the high culture and the high performance. And what I just explained to you is the step-by-step, two parts to the equation that you actually need to make that happen. And so when we focus on systematizing the what, the how and who does the what and the how, and then we optimize all of that system by tracking the performance and then making sure that we're touching the people on our team as frequently as we need to be. It's like, that's the magic sauce. Here's the thing, we know the ugly roof strategy works, but the only way that it's actually gonna work for you guys at scale is if we build the system. It's the puzzle, right? It's the processes, the playbooks, the people, the performance, the entire pulse that we just walked through top to bottom. And it's like, that is the puzzle that's gonna allow you to build the high culture and the high performance that you guys need to grow your team. And I don't just speak about this in theory or like you should do this and not, you know, practice what I preach. It's literally 1:07 right now. I have my sales team meeting, my daily sales team meeting, starting in 8 minutes. And like I said, the only way that you can build big shit, the only way that you can build good shit is by doing the boring work. And that's what we're gonna do. So if you guys thought this was helpful or you like this video, just do me a favor, either like the video or subscribe to our channel so you guys get notifications for all of our future ones. Talk to you soon.